Vic, gonna rule this goddamn city. Gotta rule this goddamn city, Vic. It's just you and me against the world, Vic, huh? Against these fucking waste people.
Feel alive, Vic, huh?
Speaking of waste, I feel like that might be the worst Penguin impression. Do you know what? I was thinking about wearing the Drifted Batman outfit for this review, but do you know what? I thought it'd be time to get all nice, be all special for you. But before we get into the rest of my review for the Penguin, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, follow me on social media, specifically Instagram and TikTok. It's down there in the description. Plug EF Manar. Before we get into the video, I just want to quickly plug my latest short film, The Shining Optimism of EF Manar. Keep the spark alive. As dreamer and optimist EF Manar must find a way to keep his hopes and passions alive in a cynical world. Inspired by Wonka and The Greatest Showman, a lot of time, effort, love, and passion was put into this project, so I would really appreciate it if you guys could give it a watch. The film is linked down below in the description, and it's also on the homepage of my YouTube channel. I hope you guys watch it and really enjoy it. Anyways, back to the video. Right, yeah, so without further ado, let's get into the Penguin. So all 8, 9... how many episodes were there? Anyways, all episodes of The Penguin are out, and overall, I really liked this show. Like, genuinely, I thought it was great. Now, is the show as good as everyone keeps saying it is? Not really. Like, everyone's like, oh my god, this is one of the best crime dramas, it's one of the best shows ever right now, it's one of the best shows on TV, it's amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, I do think it is really good, and I thought overall the series was really strong. Especially that finale. Like, there are certain moments in that finale, and we'll get to it, that just... I was on the edge of my seat, my mouth was open, aghast, but I was like, oh, no way, this is amazing. But also too, there are things with this show where I was like, it's a little bit lazy, or I'm kind of like, yeah, it's good, but it's not that good. But honestly though, I was very surprised that I was going to enjoy the show, because watching the trailers, I was like, yeah, it looks alright, I guess. Like, I like the Penguin, sure, we'll see what they do, I'll watch it. But there's something about me that you need to know in terms of, I don't easily get into crime dramas. Like, Daredevil is one of my favourite shows of all time. I love it. But it took me a while to get into that first season. Like, when I first watched it, bear in mind, I was a little young then. It came out, what, 2015, so I was 15. So, getting into it, I was like, sure, yeah, it's a bit boring, a bit slow. And then the Stick episode happens, and I fell in love with it. And then I rewatched season 1, and I was like, oh, wait, no, this is a masterpiece. Like, my critical brain was, like, developing, and I was like, oh, this is, like, genuinely fantastic. And even to this day, there is still something in me that is a bit hesitant to watch crime dramas. I'm like, yeah, sure, we'll give it a go, I guess. But no, straight from the get-go, in episode 1, I just remembered, oh, yeah, I like the Penguin. I love Colin Farrell's interpretation of the Penguin. He's hilarious. If you see my movie commentary for the Batman, you know that I think his Penguin is so funny and just, no habla español, fellas! And literally in episode 1, he just walks in on the scene and he's doing his little limp and he's like, hey fellas, what's going on here? Oh, here's something actually about his limp. Did he develop that in this show or did he get it in the Batman? Because I remember rewatching the Batman and I don't recall him ever limping in that film. I feel like it's a retcon for the show because throughout the entirety of the show, especially during the flashbacks of him as a kid, he's limping, but I don't recall him limping in the Batman. But no, from the beginning of the show, it sets up the idea that Oscorp, which, okay, that's something that I don't like as a Batman fan, I think it's kind of, it runs into the same problem I have with the Batman film, which is the film is so comic booky until it goes, nah, that's too silly, we won't do that. Like, we'll basically make Colin Farrell's Penguin incredibly goofy and silly and over the top and kind of a caricature, but like, it's wonderful, it fits the tone. But at the same time too, we can't call him Oswald Cobblepot, we have to call him Oscobb. Why? Like, just say he's from old money or, like, his family fell from grace back in the day or whatever. Maybe they'll retcon it in the Batman 2 or something where he'll be like, no, the name's Oscobblepot now or something. Maybe they'll do that, but still, I just thought that was a bit weird. But yeah, Penguin's main goal is to become, like, the major crime boss of Gotham. And along the way, we meet a colourful cast of characters like Vic, who is essentially just Miles Morales, but a criminal. Like, I remember they do the whole backstory episode with Vic, and it's like, oh, he's just Miles Morales. Except for instead of being bitten by a radioactive or genetically altered spider, he just becomes a criminal. But also too, there's a bit of Jason Todd, because the way he and Penguin meet, he's trying to steal the hubcaps off Penguin's car, which is essentially Jason Todd's origin. That's how Jason Todd meets Batman. Again, Matt Reeves is hinting at the idea of maybe Robin appearing in the universe, and I kind of hope so. And also we get introduced to Sophia Falcone, portrayed by Kristen Milioti, who I mainly know from How I Met Your Mother. I feel like most people know her as the mother from How I Met Your Mother. She's fantastic in this show. Like, yes, Sophia Falcone is a little bit over the top, but it fits within the tone of the show. It fits in with Colin Farrell's Penguin. And getting to the end of the show, you are both rooting for her to win, and eventually when she doesn't win, you're kind of like, damn it. But also too, I was glad that she didn't die by the end of the show, because I want to see more of her. And apparently she'll have a bigger role in the Batman too. Yeah, Sophia, I don't want you to get hoit. But you feel bad for her, because essentially she was driven into Arkham by her father, Carmine Falcone, who they recast as Mark Strong because John Turturro didn't want to do it. Because Mark Strong essentially just plays a younger version. By how much? I think it's like 5-10 years, and it's not super far off. But she's framed for these murders because she got involved with the press. But even still, she was only doing it to, you know, protect women. And then Falcone sends her to Arkham. She gets tortured for years and years and years until eventually her brother dies, and then she's released from Arkham. Might be mixing up some of the details, but still. She comes back to Gotham and is like, I'm gonna get revenge on the Falcone family. I'm gonna kill the Maroni family, and then I'm just gonna, you know, vamoose off and live a little free life of my own. You know, she then allies with Oz, but then Oz betrays her and she's like, screw it, I'm gonna kill Oz. And then you get to the finale where she's like torturing Oz's mother, which that whole subplot in the story was heartbreaking. The whole thing about young Oz killing his brothers, and his mum knew the whole time and was just like, oh, I knew he did it because he was so needy and wanted to be with me and just only have me. That whole subplot was so compelling and so just, God, it was gut punching, because you get to that finale and, you know, Sophia's like torturing the mum and she's torturing Oz, and she's just like, come on, just admit that you let your brothers die. And Oz won't do it. Oz is just like, no, I didn't do nothing. What are you talking about? His constant denial, even though that his mum knows that he's lying, is just, the drama of the show is compelling. And then after Oz and his mother escape, Sophia's like, okay, cool, put a bounty on Oz. I want to basically take over Gotham and then give it off to someone else because I just want to go live my life for freedom. But it all kind of backfires on her, because then the mob crime syndicate of Gotham is just like, no, we'll side with Oz, even though we were going to abandon him. Because when the city blocks explode, they thought Oz was dead, and they were just like, nah, we're only here for the product, not Oz. And then Vic, that's another thing too, when Vic's like, hey, what is wrong with you people? You gotta side with Oz. You see him fighting through his stuff. They're just like, no, you pledge your allegiance to Oz and you're gonna, like, you know, hold to your word. But they, you know, beat him up and stuff. But it's nice to see from the first episode where literally Vic is terrified when Oz has him at gunpoint. He's like, please, please. To the point where Oz takes pity on him and goes, oh, he's kind of like me. He's got a little bit of a disability. I'm gonna look after him. To the point now where Vic is essentially running Oz's operations. It was such a great arc for him throughout the show. And then it all builds to that final scene, but we'll get there. The mob bosses betray Sophia and they all side with Oz, and then Oz has Sophia at gunpoint. You think she's gonna die, and part of me is just like, please, I don't want her to die, I don't want her to die. Yeah, Sophia, I don't want you to get hoit. And she doesn't because the cop shot, but also too, Oz needed an alibi for the whole thing and he pins it on Sophia. She ends up back in Arkham again. She's being tortured by, Shades from Luke Cage. Theo Rossi, that's the actor's name. What was the character's name in the show? I don't remember. And then an interesting thing is that she receives a letter from her half-sister Selena Kyle, where I was like, oh, okay. I wonder where this goes in the Batman 2. And it is really exciting that she survives and she's gonna be in the Batman 2. Because I'm pretty sure, like, everyone fell in love with her character, because her character is just so interesting, because you feel so bad for her too, but also too, you get where she's coming from, you get her anger at her family, and you also get her anger at Oz. Because back in the day, Oz was her driver, and then he betrays her and stuff. You think there's gonna be a tight bond, but there isn't. I like that the show establishes the idea that no matter how close you think people are to you, they will eventually stab you in the back. And speaking of, I feel like I'm building up to this whole bit of the review. The scene where Oz kills Vic had me just in shock. My mouth was open. I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, no way. Because the whole show, everyone thought, you know, Vic's gonna die. Like, it just makes sense. But then you get to that bit in the finale where they're like sitting down, there's like 10 minutes left, you're like, yeah, they're just gonna do a little thing where they're like, yeah, well, you and me, kid, we're gonna win everything. We're gonna win over Gotham. We're gonna take over the whole world. Come on, just you and me, kid. But it's the moment where Vic literally goes to Oz, you are like family to me, and oh, this is so heartbreaking. Those were essentially his final words, and like literally, Penguin just looks at him and he's just like, I love you, man, I love you like family, but that's the problem with family, you can't let people get too close. And then he just chokes him out and strangles him to death, and it's frustrating because, and the way Colin Farrell plays it is so perfect too, because the look in Oz's face is just like, those were the exact words I've wanted to hear my entire life. Like, you mean so much to me, but at the same time too, I don't want to be burdened by having you here. And the problem with family is that, you know, it will eventually disappoint you. And he kills him, and it's just, It was actually heartbreaking. And the thing is too, is that when Batman eventually shows up in the Batman Part 2, when Penguin shows up in the film and Batman beats his ass, I'm gonna have no remorse. I don't care. Beat the shit out of him, Bruce. I don't care. Penguin deserves it. He killed Vic. Oh, that genuinely got me. That was genuinely like a fantastic moment throughout the entire show. That whole scene there changed my opinion from, yeah, it's pretty good, but to, no, this show is great. And then the final scene of the show where Oscorp finally is in the penthouse that he promised his ma. His ma has a stroke and he basically brings her like hospital bed to the top of the penthouse and is just like, see, I promised you, I got you what you always wanted. And he's dancing around with his squeeze, who he like purposely dresses up to look like his mother and basically role plays his mother. It's so creepy and so weird, and it's just like, God, this Penguin is despicable. But this interpretation of the Penguin is my favorite version of the character now. Colin Farrell plays his character so perfectly. The way the show has fleshed him out is just so awesome, to where they've now made him more comic booky. He is now the more high society Penguin. You know, he's wearing the top hat and the overcoat. He's trying to be a bit more classy. But at the same time too, we know he's a scumbag, but also he's just entertaining to watch. Like, I don't like him anymore. Like, at the start of the show, you're like, oh yeah, I'm kind of rooting for him. I kind of like him. I like this little down in his luck loser. Now I'm like, no, I don't like this guy at all. I want Batman to beat his ass. And the final shot too, with the camera pulls out and then we see the bat signal light up in the sky. That was great. Now, speaking of Batman, a lot of criticisms I've seen lobbed at this show is, where is Batman? Why is Batman not showing up? And there are two reasons that I've heard, and one of them is kind of believable. The other one, I'm like, no, that's kind of dumb. So, the first excuse I've heard is that this stuff happening in the show is too low level for Batman. He's not going to show up, but that doesn't make any sense, especially considering how at the beginning of the Batman, you know, he has this whole big monologue of like, but I am the shadows. And the criminals are all like running away from him. They're scared of him. They're literally jumping at their own shadows thinking Batman is going to pop out of the corner to attack them. And then we get to this where I feel like they undo the ending of the Batman a bit too quickly, to where, you know, Gotham has been flooded, crime is more rampant, but at the same time too, it feels like they kind of just washed it away. It's like, oh yeah, we fixed the city, but I feel like that was going to be like the whole point of the Batman too. And that's the thing, it does feel like they fixed the city. So in many ways, Batman not showing up in the show is just a bit weird. Especially when the explosion at Crown Point happens, like, where is Batman? That doesn't make any sense. Or at the very least, where is Commissioner Gordon? And the second excuse I've heard, which I find to be a bit more believable, and only time will tell if we're proven right, is that at the end of the Batman, when Catwoman and Selina Kyle both drive off in separate directions, Batman is leaving Gotham. To do what? I don't know. Maybe he's going off to do his whole deep meditative spiritual journey thing that he normally likes to do. But the thing is, was that when the Batman ended and I saw that scene, I thought, okay, he's just driving back into Gotham. He was just escorting Selina out of the city. But now after seeing the Penguin, it does make a little bit more sense that Bruce drove out of Gotham to go and do some like self-discovery, self-healing. But only time will tell. Maybe they will explain it in the Batman 2, or maybe they won't. Even still, I do find it weird how the show kind of goes out of its way not to reference Batman. Like, I just find it weird how in certain episodes there would be moments where criminals would be like, oh yeah, the Batman, or oh yeah, the Bat, or the freaking Bat. No one says it. And it's weird. It's like, you'd feel like they would reference him at some point. Like, I didn't really need Batman to show up, but it just needed to make more sense in terms of why he didn't show up. And it's weird too because the show does go out of its way to reference elements of the Batman. Like when Oz and Vic and stuff are setting up their little mushroom operation in the undercity of Gotham, there's literally a shot where Vic is on a motorcycle and you think, oh, it's Drifter Batman. The way it's shot, the imagery, like, okay, it's Drifter Bruce Wayne. We're gonna see Bruce in some way, shape or form, like scouting out the Penguin up. No, it's Vic. So I'm like, where is Batman? Where is Bruce? And it's funny too because in terms of like my criticisms for the show, there are certain things that the show does story-wise where in any other show I would be like, this is lame, this is stupid. But I don't know if it's the way the show is directed or the way the scene is like played out. It just works for me. Like when Oz fights Maroni and then Maroni dies of a heart attack midway through the fight. In any other show I'd have been like, that's lame, that's a cop-out. But I don't know if it's the way it's directed or the way Penguin reacts where he's just like, what the hell, man? Come on, I'm still ready to fight you. And he can't believe his own luck that Maroni just dies of a heart attack. I don't know, it worked for me. Like, I don't know, I feel like on paper, if you read it and it's like Penguin fights Maroni and Maroni dies of a heart attack, you think, oh, that's kind of lame. But the way it plays in context of the show, it works for me. Like, in terms of story criticisms, I don't really have too much. Like, the middle bit is a little bit unmemorable for me. Like, some of my memory on that stuff is a little bit fuzzy, but overall, like, the show is pretty damn good. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Penguin. I guess is pretty damn good. I'm shocked and surprised of how much I enjoyed it. I don't think it is as good as people are saying it is. Like, people are like, oh, it's like on the same level as The Sopranos. It's a fantastic masterpiece of a show. Like, it's good. It's not that good. But it is great, don't get me wrong. Those are my thoughts on The Penguin. What did you guys think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on social media, all that good stuff. Until we meet again, I'll see you guys next time.